Hey guys, it's John from the Lazy Raiders, and today I'm going to start to talk a little bit about a bit of pre-Legion hype and what needs to happen in Legion in order to revive WoW. Well, first off, WoW's not really dead, and despite it being at its lowest sub number since vanilla, which is around like 5.5 million, WoW's still by far the largest MMO on the market, and will most likely stay that way for a little while longer. But with that being said, it has fallen off a lot, and many people, including myself, were very disappointed in Warlords, and hope a lot of the same mistakes that were discovered in Warlords aren't made again in Legion. Honestly, Warlords started off pretty amazing. The sub numbers pretty much reflected that, and after Warlords release, WoW shot back up to 10 mil subs, which is its highest since the end of Wrath. Garrisons were a new and interesting concept in the leveling storyline, and honestly the overall look and feel of Draenor was pretty incredible. However, that didn't really last long. While Heimal was, in my opinion, a pretty good overall raid, the PvP was in such a poor state, as well as the garrisons getting tedious pretty quickly, and the total gutting of professions left for almost no endgame content for the players. This stalled out pretty much until Blackrock was released, which also was a pretty good raid in my opinion, but that really wasn't enough to keep the players around, and a majority of people started leaving left and right. This endgame content drought, as well as the will they won't they on flying and Draenor, was pretty frustrating as a player, and while most people argue in regards to endgame content that if you're not 13 mythic or high ranked in PvP, you have things left to do, but you guys gotta remember that not everyone raids or PvPs, so if you didn't have that, you really only had garrisons, honestly. The legendary questline had cool lore, but like in MoP, it quickly became a chore that you had to catch up on if you made a new character, and not to mention when 6.2 came out, it was almost required to find a good group to raid with. You need the ring. Currently, Warlords of Draenor looks to be over for content, and the player base has made it abundantly clear that we're not happy at all. The raids were good and the leveling was nice, but aside from that, Warlords of Draenor was pretty much a massive failure. Which brings us into Legion. So far, without going into too much detail, Legion looks a lot different than the lead up to past expansions, and if you want to check that out, there's a link to MMO Champions, which can catch you up. There's been a lot of dev communication on what's going on in Legion, and we're barely into Alpha, which is not usual, because with past expansions we've kind of been left to guess on what certain mechanics would be and certain moves, but so far there's been a lot of communication with the devs, and Legion seems so far like every community driven idea was tossed into one expansion and given a shot. The Emerald Dream, wielding legendary items, different moves between PvP and PvE, and the main topic of this video is going to be about what Legion needs to do in order to bring WoW back to its former glory. The obvious main concern for Legion is the artifact weapons. Aesthetically, they look awesome, and multiple designs with multiple skins is a pretty cool concept. However, my biggest concern with them is how easy or hard the multiple skins or alternate looks will be to get. To me personally, I hope that the skins are harder to get, where if you see someone rocking one, you'll immediately be impressed. Like back in early WoW and vanilla BC, where raiding was a bit more gated, and you saw someone with epic raid tier gear, and you just knew that dude was a baller. Balancing artifacts will also be pretty important too, seeing as how they're going to have to make sure no artifact powers are too strong in PvP or PvE. The next biggest concern to me is endgame content. What can and will Blizzard do in order to keep the players around if they don't PvP or in between raid nights? I honestly have no idea. After MoP, the community responded with being against daily spam, and after Warlords of Draenor, nobody wanted the Trove Garrison. But personally, I think that class halls will fill a niche in between that, where it's repetitive enough to keep you busy, but not so mundane that you become bored and tired of it quickly. And obviously with balancing at Demon Hunters, because as we've seen before, new class introductions can get out of hand pretty quickly, especially with wild, cool concepts such as like Death Knights and Demon Hunters. However, they did keep monks relatively in line, at least compared to the release of DKs. Leveling this expansion seems like it'll be great. So far the zones and art have looked fantastic, and the fact that you can start and progress evenly in any zone of your choosing is great for many reasons. First, you don't have to skip storyline to get leveling, or to get to max as fast as possible, which is something a lot of us do. And second, you skip the release rush of mobs being instantly tagged or not being able to find resources for quests. This also allows you to experience the game however you want and choose where and what you want to do without feeling like you're wasting your time. And honestly, overall, leveling so far seems like it'll be great in Legion, if not the best it's ever been. Now on to PvP specifically. So far what's been announced is a target of near 20 endgame dungeons, and that's a lot, more than we've had recently. A lot more to me, and that seems like a good idea, as long as they structure it properly. Like to me, I feel personally that dungeons should have an eye level requirement as you go up. So for example, the first 5 dungeons require an eye level of 750 or whatever it is at the time, the next 5 would be 760 or something along those lines, so you don't run the same dungeons as you gear and then crush it once you get fully decked out. As far as the raids are concerned, they look great, and I really hope we see N'Zoth at the end of the Emerald Nightmare. So the raids that were promised so far was one where we climb the Emerald Tree that holds the Emerald Dream, now called the Emerald Nightmare after being corrupted, and I do really hope we see N'Zoth here. And the second raid is at Suramar Palace, and according to the site it says, home to the Nightwell, center of Suramar's power and a corrupting pillar. Similar to Black Temple in spirit, with players sneaking in rather than making a frontal assault. This is where players will finally confront a cornered Gul'dan. I assume and I really hope that we have at least 2 more raids after this too, so as far as PvE is concerned, as long as they hold to their word and balance classes better, which I think will be much easier with artifact weapons, this should be no problem. But again, even in bad expansions like Warlords of Draenor, the raids are always top notch, but it's all up to Blizzard holding their word on things. Now PvP. Oh man, where do you even start with PvP? Well, first they need to clean up the cheaters at the top and add some sort of decaying system. Cheating aside, most players get their accounts to a specific MMR and just go on another tune and play, because at this point they're guaranteed the placing since there's no decay. I personally don't PvP much, but my friend who's high rated, 2.2k at the moment I think, it was 2.8k a couple seasons ago, complains about the MMR decay ruining the competitiveness of the ladder. However, I think the separation of moves from PvE and PvP was an amazing first step towards balancing PvP, and it works so well with Colossus Smash. I have no idea why it just wasn't immediately implemented like that from then on. Also, with the new prestige-esque honor system and PvP system, and the gear gap being eliminated, it seems like the early stages of PvP got smoothed out a lot, which is huge. Lots of players would enjoy mid-season due to the gear gap, and that was super frustrating to catch up to. That being said, Blizzard has done a pretty poor job balancing PvP in the last 2 expansions, as the ladder shrunk from 300,000 players in Kata, supposedly barely over 50,000 now. Another massive PvP change was the nerfing of human racial. That's huge, and that was such a big reason to roll Alliance, and with your rewards of the top X% being given based on your faction now, as well as the Horde racial changes, this would definitely spread some of the players over to Horde PvP. Honestly, with these changes, once things settle, I feel like the Horde Alliance PvP imbalance will probably be gone, and remain at worst a 65 to 35 imbalance if all things go wrong, which is insane compared to what it is now. So honestly, PvPers, assuming Blizzard can put their money where their mouth is, you have a lot to look forward to in Legion. Overall, I think that Legion has the potential to bring the game back to where it was in mid-Kata in terms of player satisfaction. I think that immediately on Legion's release, subs will jump up to about 8 million, and we'll never know since they won't release it, but that's what they say. If the numbers are up, I assume they'll brag about it, per se. And I could see, barring a Warlords 2.0, the game settling around 7 to 7.5 million concurrent players. I don't personally feel Legion can be another Wrath of the Lich King, but hey, you never know. But one thing is certain, if this expansion flops, the Legion will bring an end to Azeroth. Overall, guys, this is all my opinion, so take it as you will. Anyway, I'm starting to really get back into WoW, and I really enjoyed making this video, as I'm personally really excited for Legion. So if you're also interested in pre-Legion and post-Legion news, and higher-end PvE and maybe sometime PvP gameplay, be sure to like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.